Hello, and welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate. I'm your host, Bridget Stewart, and my guest today is Lacy Peacock from Pennsylvania. Lacy, thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me, Bridget. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm really excited because today we are going to talk about a topic I think so many of us, regardless of industry or career, will really be able to relate to. Because frankly, what we're going to talk about is not just showing up at work, it is showing up in our regular lives. And really the topic that you're passionate about. It's almost taking this 1 degree difference approach to nudging yourself into changing your own behavior to bring about dramatic, remarkable results in your life and your business. And even taking that approach to overcome huge challenges or rebuild or build something from the ground up. So I'm going to pass this straight to you, Lacy.
Okay.
Can you share with us more about what this means to you?
Okay. So, what this means to me is that when I first got into real estate, it's kind of bright eyed and bushy tailed. I was pre law and I was doing shadowing program for a real estate broker. I often say I'm more of the nerdy contract side of real
Hmm.
estate. So, I never thought I would make a good sales agent per se. But I was great at researching programs and helping home buyers and sellers when an issue would arise. And my broker kind of pushed me towards getting into the real estate career. Something interesting most people don't know is because I had taken some real estate law courses, sent in my transcripts to the Pennsylvania Real Estate Association, and I didn't have to take the courses. I just had to study for the exam.
Right.
So I did that part time for a little while before real estate part time before I became full time. I've always taken more of a unique approach is where I want to be more referral based and relationship driven. I didn't like some of the sales techniques that we have, but I do know they're necessary. So in the first few years, I went from being no one not from the Pennsylvania area. I'm originally from Delaware, born and raised, to doing almost 30 deals on my own, which was a big feat for honestly a minority agent in a predominantly Caucasian area. It was 99%. And people ask me, how did I do it? I just cared. I took the time. I would meet. I had one couple I remember. They owned my Asian family. They owned a restaurant, and I met them at 11 o'clock at night. They made me a nice, great dinner, and we were there for 2 hours just going over the
Right.
paperwork. And so I big on relationship driven. And then I got caught
Hmm.
up in the growth of it all. And I started trying to build teams and become this other person by everyone else's influence of what I should do once you reach a certain level of success. I'm using quotes a lot because these are some things I want people to think of. I lost track of who I was.
Yes.
So when I talk about 1%, you hear more further on in the podcast, it's about doing things not overly where you're tracing this idea of perfection. And I think that killed my momentum and my also my inner desire to be great at what I did because it started
Hmm.
me to kind of ticking off this KPIs and looking at did I make my calls? Did I do my conversion? And I got so consumed with that, I think I lost touch of what got me to the level of success that I had.
Okay.
So that kind of gives you that. Plus, I had 4 kids at home, and eventually, my desire to over exceed and be number one definitely put a toll on my relationships. And I ended up going through a divorce, not because of that, but I also looked at that as part of it. And then I fell into some health scares. I had 4 surgeries the past 2 years. So the past 3 or 4 years, I've been working part time in real
Hmm.
estate, and I was still trying to. Actually beat myself up. I was still trying to chase that dream of defying the odds, the stereotypes, and wanting to be number one. And
Hmm.
what I realized is that if I didn't get everything done on my list, I would beat myself up. You know what I mean? And said, this
Right.
is why you're not getting the business. This is why you're not seeing those same accolades. And the one, kind of cheers and awards I was getting, I wasn't getting anymore. And it bothered me. And I never was a accolades kind of award driven person, but I became that.
Right.
So now what I started doing is saying, what's my 3 things a day I want to accomplish? One's business related, one's personally related with family, and then one's internally something that I do. So that one thing every day, if I accomplish it, I'm become more balanced in life, I feel like, and more calm. And people see a difference. They know me. They love that I was someone that took care of everything and kind of put myself last, but they also love the quieter, more strong interior confidence that I built over
Yes.
having life kind of, shake me up and kind of, I say my bottom fell out where work wasn't a priority anymore. My children, the changes in our household, my health, I couldn't walk. I had 4 hip surgeries. from a genetic disorder I didn't know I had. I was so caught up. I look back now and laugh, but I went to a listing appointment with a walker. That's how
Great.
much I was with a walker. And
Mhm.
I had a mortgage friend of mine came with me and my fiance. But that's how much I really wanted it. You know what I mean? And I didn't put my other things in consideration. And one day I woke up and say, let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the things you enjoy doing. Let's stop with these extreme ideologies of what success is and go back to what you do very well. And that was a very humbling moment. I cried through that, and I was not really an emotional crying person, but I had to kind of burn it all down and start over. So that's kind of what the book I'm writing, The 1%, is about. When we're chasing ideas that don't align with us, it becomes very difficult, and we don't realize that because it's not aligned with our inner being or our inner path. We
Correct.
just we were forcing it, and that's what I had to realize. When I wasn't fortunate, I was doing very well, and I was actually working 2 careers and doing very well in both. But
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, I lost sight of that. Still exceeded my clients' expectations, and I think that's where people don't see it because I have over, 120 some reviews for a solo agent, which is unheard of.
Mhm.
People see that and think, "What are you talking about?" On the outside, you look normal, but internally, there's a lot breaking down, so
Yes. It's
I
at
think
what
about that.
cost?
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
and when you are prioritizing client experience, of course, in our chosen industry, we have a lot of legal ramifications too. So we have to make sure all the legal side is correct,
Yes.
right? And that we are truly being a fiduciary and protecting our clients, right? So there, all of that in some regards has to be the priority in our chosen industry of sales.
Yes. Yes.
That and it comes at a cost because it sounds like you had reached a point where you were leaving it all on the field for your
Yes.
clients and your company, and
Yes.
then at the end of the day, when you got home, there was nothing left for you.
No, nothing at all. And even with
Right.
I would literally take my kids to practice and go show a house in between and come
Mhm.
back and get them. You know what I mean? To make dinner. Then I'm up to 2 o'clock in the morning, making sure I'm ready for the next day, which they enjoyed the fruits of my labor by being involved in extracurricular activities and vacations. And I kept helping my family. But I felt burnout, but I still wanted to do well. I didn't want to let anyone down. And I don't think people talk about that as much as we should. I
Mhm.
started my master's degree program. I put it on hold because I want to make sure I'm doing very well. And I think it was excessive. It wasn't just Lacey closed the deal. I was envious of people to say, oh, as long as I close the deal a month, that's great. I'm like, "What?" But now I see that as your life pivots, you realize you don't need to chase the business and have this ideal. You need to have time as our greatest asset. And I had to learn that the hard way. And so that's what the 1% method is about, finding the things that make you happy or make you feel the light inside of yourself come out. And I think a lot of us are missing that. We're just duty bound, checking off a list or what comparisons a thief of joy. So you're comparing yourself to other agents, and I don't do any of that. And it wasn't me. I never did that until like a couple of years ago. I started doing it, and I think that's not the vibration or level that I
No.
have ever been on. It didn't align with me. I don't like it. So
Well,
now I
when
remove
you
myself.
I think you put yourself in a position, as you said, when any salesperson, and I feel like this really impacts leadership and management as well. When they so you were developing success being I know this is an overused phrase, but you were being like true to your genuine core values
Yes.
and your genuine self, right? So you were
Yes.
being kind of the best version of yourself every day with a focus on relationships and amazing client experience while
Yes.
keeping your eye on all the legal aspects of our chosen industry. And that was great. It was when you started to impose other people's definition of success or other company or whatever wherever it came
Yes.
from. When you
Yes.
started imposing that definition of success on yourself, where things started to go sideways.
I felt that way in business, yes, but it was also
Yes,
impacting my life
your
shifted.
life.
And you're
Yeah,
kind of in a bubble, right? When you have the house, the husband, the kids, everything's going great, and you're being successful. It changes when things you don't realize. The same thing when you lose someone, you don't realize that suffering that comes along with it until you go through it. And I
right.
think the second chapter that I'm building is going to be different. But go back to what Gary Keller says: it's about building a life by your design. It was
Yes,
about my design. I had pressures from my children to perform, my husband, my company. Everyone was taking a little piece of me because it made them happy. And I've always been which I didn't realize that because I have two sides to me. I've always been a people pleaser. And I think that's why I do well in real estate. But I also looked at in a day, I wasn't sleeping, I was gaining weight. So all these things
Mhm.
are happening. But when I say God forces you to slow down, when
Yeah.
he took away my legs, I had to learn how to
Correct,
re-walk.
yes.
It was hard
God
for me.
decided to reach down and say 4 surgeries on your hips, and that
Yeah, so yeah, let's
forced
see
you
how
to
you get
pause
around
and
with this one.
reflect.
And you know what
Yeah.
it said? We said when you playing guy laughs, when I show with the walker, he's like, okay,
Yeah.
here we're gonna go. You'll be back in the hospital for a week. And it was embarrassing also for me because people start seeing me as a girl, in the office that was sick. But again, I also go by default, say it could always be worse. But until you go through a death, a divorce, issues at home with children, whatever it may come, I have also a parent that's bedridden, so she depends
Mhm.
on me. So all these things were closing in on this ideal life I was building. And it's humbling. Even for someone
Mhm.
for me who feels very humble anyway, it's very humbling. So that's what I said. And you brought up something that I thought was interesting as a coach, because when we talked the first time, I took the KPI, which is why I'm in school for psychology and we're doing different tests on personality and um, was emotional intelligence. I took the
Yes.
KPI. You know what I scored? I scored 98% for a coach,
Wow.
99 for OP. Like all these
Mhm.
high level leadership, you know what I chased? Becoming a team, becoming building a team and managing a team. And what I
Right.
found is I worked nothing against the team because they all loved me, which I was grateful, but I worked harder than them. Like I was getting clients in and passing it, off to them. And then still micromanaging in a sense because I want to make sure are you doing
Yes.
those things that I hold dear. And I often felt like I was still doing the same tasks by having a team. And
Mhm.
I realized that's probably not the best and highest use of my time. So again, I spent a couple of years trying to build that because that's to me was a Keller Williams model is that once you hit 20, 25 deals, you need, a TC, an admin, you need to get a buyer's agent, which was great. But I also feel like I lost a part of myself in building that. So
Right.
like you said, that goes back to designing a life to creating a life by your design, but also knowing what your foundation is. Who are you? What makes you unique? And I think people try to replicate everyone, which is okay in some points of business when you're learning, but not when you're losing your foundational compass.
I agree. To me, it is with putting perspective on what you just shared. You do these skill analysis tests, and it's
Yes.
analyzing you as in big leadership roles, an owner principal, in this directorship type of level. And you're attempting to force yourself to be good at a team manager type of level. Nothing against team management, but if that's not your skill, it's as if you're trying to operate at the highest level while wearing shoes that are too small and clothes that are too big. Like you're trying to fit into things that are going to trip you up, make you uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like it's not going to flow. So it sounds
No.
like with getting back to, you mentioned like getting back to that foundational core values of yourself, your own
Hmm.
personality, and allowing that to come through, leaning in on your own skills and rebuilding a foundation. So you've been rebuilding a foundation and
Yes.
now customizing your growth to grow
Yes.
with your skills, natural and enhanced, and your education.
Yes, I cannot agree more. Like I'm great at marketing. I've been a AI junkie before it became popular, so a lot of
Mhm.
my systems are automated. And I've always been someone who advises. It's just something innately in me where I'm good at being resourceful and breaking things down as a more of a visionary and helping people guide them through it. I always say I love a C personality, if you know DISC, because I'm a high D and really great at vision. So we work
Mhm.
very well together. So yes, what you said, my marketing, I'm focusing back on that. And I'm actually doing something with the market center liaisons at Keller Williams. I had someone reach out to me. They looked at my resume and they want to do a community around AI.
Okay.
So some of the things I'm building in the background is unheard of. So
Mhm.
I'm literally searching. I have a Google alert with everything AI that comes out, especially when it applies to entrepreneurs or real estate. So
Mhm.
I think in the next year, I'm going to be doing things at a different level that I don't think people have thought of, so that I'm excited about. And marketing, I think we're so focused on digital, but we still need that print piece. We still need those touches that
Mhm.
I know at one time I was just like, oh, I don't want to bother people, right? I don't want to be too much. And I do feel like we have to be a little eccentric and in this if you want to stand out because if you think someone else is not courting your clients or your sphere of influence, they are. This is what people hear the stories that my aunt listed with someone else. So, what
That's
have you
right.
talked to? Right? Like, well,
Yeah.
in their mind, that person who's actually bothering them is the agent of choice, so, or they feel
Correct.
like that's the neighborhood agent. So we got to stop letting fear and our own perception of what we should behave and act like hinder us from being top of mind. It doesn't
Agreed.
hurt. So I heard someone say that. He said, I think it's disappointing if someone doesn't use me because they don't know, because I didn't try hard enough to be that person top of mind. I can't blame
Absolutely.
someone else if they choose someone who's actually out here being top of
Of
mind and
service.
showing value.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And positioning themselves as the market expert.
Correct. And
Yeah.
it's a skill. We
It is.
focus on overcoming objections, but for some of us that are introvert, I think it's hard sometimes to put yourself out there. But there's other ways to do that based off of your personality on things that you can do to still add value and be that market expert of choice. You don't always have to be the dominant or alpha agent to do so. Some people love analytical. Some people love the social agent. Some people love the S agent who's very good at loving on you and making you feel comfortable. There's an agent out here for everyone, and that's where I love collaboration. When you brought me
Right.
on your luxury lounge, a few people reached out to me, and they get
Mhm.
it. You know what I mean? They don't mind sharing what works for them. It doesn't mean I'm going to use everything, but at least I'm getting a different perspective on how to perfect my brand. And I think that's also a big thing that I had to learn is I'm a brand within a brand. And
Correct.
I'm, what I mean, think it's like we don't look at
Yeah.
that. We're a business within a business if you have your license at, brokerage. And
Mhm.
we also have to consider that when we're meeting with our clients, sphere of influence is why are we different? Everyone has something uniquely different. When you're told to be canned in your responses or to act like the number one agent in your office or replicate that, I think that's where you kind of lose your uniqueness, your
Your
gifts
own
that you
identity,
were
right.
blessed. Yeah, I love that. Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I wanna jump back to something you shared very briefly, but I know our listeners caught it too. You mentioned that there came a time you're hustling and bustling and selling real estate, and all of a sudden hips don't wanna work, legs don't wanna work. I want you and you ended up actually pushing yourself and going on a listing appointment with a walker because you were
That's
determined to make
right.
it happen and you were prioritizing your clients, and
Yeah.
kudos for that. Can you share with us when did you finally realize, holy for holy, something is not quite right here? Then you end up with 4 surgeries, and then you ended up having to really slow down, not by choice,
Yes.
and you've rebuilt. Can you walk us through your journey with all of that discovery of having an
Mm.
issue with your hips you didn't even know you had, and you had it since birth? Share with us that journey, please.
I'll take a step back. So I've always had to take care of my mother since a young age. Even going to college, like she would tell people, thank God for my daughter, because my father had passed away when we were younger. She became in a wheelchair and I started being really into health, working out a lot. And I just thought, because I was pushing myself, the more I saw her decline, the more I kept pushing my body. Because I just, sadly, I didn't want to become her at, she was a young age, being bedridden or, being incapacity where he couldn't walk. I was 38. I again was going off the remissive divorce. I've been with my husband since I was a child, 18. And I just started slowing down to gym. I just thought I was doing too much, stress and working out more. And I went to the doctor, which is funny because my primary care said, I haven't seen you unless you're having babies. I don't see you. So
Yeah.
that's how much I really was going to the doctor, but she was seeing me once a month. So x-rayed everything. We started with the ankles, then the knees, and it got to my hips. And she said, yeah, you need to go speak with an orthopedic surgeon. And I did. And he literally came in and said, I'm surprised you're able to walk. He said, he just did a 9-year-old hip because she fell. He said, my hips were so, what the word I'm looking for? So they were so broken down, bone on bone with
Right?
spurs that it was literally, my hips was worse than a 9-year-old that he just did a surgery on.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
everything I thought was hurting, like the inflammation was definitely, so they made me, he made me wait until I was 39 till I was 40, to have the surgery because he was saying typically, the surgery is done every 20 years, 15 to 20 years, depending on, how your body takes the prosthetic, I call it. And, was eye-opening. It was humbling because at that point, newly divorced, everyone's going out. And I just met my fiance and, I didn't want him to think he's, had to take care of someone. But both surgeries had complications and nothing to do with the doctor, just my body didn't react as well to the new prosthetic that was put in.
Right.
So they weren't going to do dual hip surgeries and they had to space it out. I say that to say clients, what I realized, clients were still calling me. They wanted to work with
Mhm.
me. I remember before going on anesthesia, I had my phone out and my doctor took it. I was discussing an appraisal with a client.
Mhm.
Because again, my mindset was that I still got to earn money and I was going to be out of work. It was eye-opening, and I'm trying to get emotional about it because I still felt like I disappointed them. I was not worried about going to surgery or what could happen because after that, I had formed an infection. I didn't want to disappoint them that they thought that they didn't matter.
Right.
And for my doctor to take the phone out of my hand and says, like, you understand, you're about to go have major surgery. You're not going to be walking.
Right.
And it was different. They had to take it was regrafting in certain areas, not just like a hip replacement for playing golf or tennis. This was like something degenerative where my hips were kind of infused. And I always walk with a little bit of limp, but I saw it's just the way I was made.
Mhm.
But the funny part is the overachiever in me, I got my notary license. Like I was doing everything I can to keep my mind sharp. I was taking classes, like I became divorce specialist, everything I
Specialist.
could think
Mhm.
of. You know what I mean? Like I still even then was chasing this idea that I'm just going to create all these designations and I'm going to be great. And God had other plans. I had to go back in for another surgery and then another surgery. It was like, and sometimes I felt like I was losing clients and business and momentum because of it, and it destroyed me. I'm not gonna lie, like, I was not the best person, during that time, and I think we've all have been through something where we feel like we got it, until we don't. I was still trying to be present in my real estate business because I was doing so much to rebuild it from the divorce. So I felt like every time I was getting a little step ahead, I was getting kind of knocked back down again. So talk about the emotional warfare that takes on someone's psyche who's wanting to be overachiever and always has been to now things were happening outside of my control. And also no one talks about the reputation that comes with not being number one, you know what I mean, or not
Mhm.
being seen as that go-to agent anymore or being overlooked, you know what I mean? Because I often say, I was listening to a podcast and he says a slow, quiet, humbling clap to the top. But once you get there, everyone wants to work with you. No one wants to work with you or invite you until you prove yourself, to people. And I had to learn it the hard way. So when I was doing well, people were inviting me to come speak on panels and do things have shifted. I know, Jesus. Now that things have shifted, it was a different ideology I had to come to terms with and you realize who's really your friends, who's really rooting for you, who's really your support system. And that's something I think doesn't go unnoticed if you have had any entrepreneur or business you're building. When things come up, you realize who truly has your best intentions. They're not just by your side because of what you can do for them or the status that you have in your industry. They truly believe in you, even when you're at your lowest. And I think that was
That's
my
right.
biggest takeaway. That's right.
And they value you for who you are as an individual.
Correct. Correct. And I used to say I could do it on my own. I'm like, you know what I mean? I don't need anyone. I could do it myself. And that pride goeth before the fall. I did realize it's
Yeah.
like, I don't need anyone. I could do it myself. Right. Like, I don't need anyone. I don't need anyone's support. And that first time I had to ask for help, and it's funny that she's sitting next to me now. I had to call and ask a fellow agent for help. It was very humbling because I felt I can do this on my own. She said, I'm glad you called, and she shared some of the things I've done for her over the years that I didn't even realize. So you don't realize the energy you're putting out and the goodwill you're putting out to others. And you get so caught up in that you feel like, I don't want to ask you for help because I'm untouchable in a sense. You know what I mean? I don't need the help. And
Right.
those are things
Right.
that you learn now that you can take forward when you're collaborating with other agents, when you're networking, when you really come from a place of abundance or giver's gain, or use the B&I term, it does come back to you.
That's
You
right.
got to train your mindset. So that goes back to that 1%. Every morning I get up and say something positive. It doesn't matter how bad the day was before. I think of what am I going to do positive? And I do think it starts to illuminate back to me, but it took time. It wasn't like I did it for a couple weeks or a couple months and everything was perfect. No, but me 1% changing my mindset and the way I looked and perceived others, it changed, I say, the lens that things came through to me. It was more so my mindset that I thought no one cared. Or now that I'm not, number one or two in the office, people don't respect me. So that was the kind of the negative
Mhm.
mindset I took on. But then I started thinking if it's to be, it's up to me. But also it's okay to ask for help. And I actually repeated that to
Yes.
myself. If it's to be, it's up to me, but it's okay to ask for help. And the right people will
And
help
that's
you.
remarkable. So during that time when you started reaching out and allowing yourself to ask for help, you had the realization that you had made deposits in the emotional bank of people all around you over the years. So they were more than
Yep.
happy to then, when you needed to do a withdrawal from that account, they were happy to be there and they
Love the way you put
wanted
that.
to do it, right?
Yes.
You made them feel better about themselves by allowing them in to help you.
Yes, think about that. Like when your mindset is, I can
Yeah.
do it myself. You've been raised that way since you were 15 because you've always taken care of everyone around you. When people are naturally used to asking for help, they don't get it. But when you're guarded and you're just like, I got to do it myself, it gets done best when I
Hmm.
do it. It changes
Yeah.
your mindset. You know what I mean? So when you do ask, and they not only help, they go above and beyond to
Above
help.
and
You know
beyond.
what I mean?
That's
Like,
right.
yes. Like you're just like, oh wow, that's the kind of person you've always been. And it kind of gets reflected back to you. So even months, like you said, those hardships that I went through, a lot of people didn't even know. I didn't tell people. Some people was like, why do
Hmm.
you ask? Why do you say something? But I agree with you. It shifts. And this is why now I have this fire in my belly. I feel like this is my second chapter. Everything I'm building with the luxury panel I did yesterday, when I say we had like 30 some people were standing in line to talk to me. I was like shocked. You know what I mean? I don't still see myself yet. You know what I mean? Because I'm still rebuilding. I'm in that beginning infancy stage. But the marketing I'm building, the AI stuff that I'm doing, people were interested. And I said, you haven't seen nothing yet. Give me 2 years. I promise you. And I'm going to share and I'm going to help. I'm not going to keep it all close to my chest and say, no, you can't be successful. That's silly. And I think
No,
once
that is silly.
think about that.
Right.
And you're
That's
really
silly.
good at that. You're really good at sharing. Your luxury lounge, when I was on here, I was like one of the best groups I was on because people were sharing
Hmm.
and not being so close to the breast saying, oh, I don't know if I want them to be as good as I am. And I had that saying
Right.
during my negative time people want to see you do well, just not better than them. I used to say that all the time. And I told myself, this is the first time I said this in like 6 months, stop saying that.
Stop
Stop
saying
saying
that.
that,
Absolutely. I
you know?
rebuke that quote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because it's also
That is
negative, right? It's
rebuked.
negative, right?
Rebuked.
I'm not gonna say
Yes.
that anymore because that's a negative mindset to think that so that
It
means anyone
is.
that comes around, they probably are gonna be that way because I'm already putting out there that this is what's gonna happen, that no one wants to see you do well,
Yes.
and
You
I felt
mentioned
it for a long
vibration
time.
earlier. When you have that
Yes,
vibration and you give off that vibration, that's actually what you will attract to you. So,
exactly.
yeah, so be really mindful
Words,
and
right?
prayerful
Words have power.
around rebuking that. Yes. Do me a favor. Can you share with everyone, if you don't mind, what year was the 4 surgeries? So, like, how far are we beyond the 4 surgeries?
So we're 6 months beyond in December. That was my last emergency one. 8 weeks, my wound actually opened up and they thought it was sepsis. So I got rushed to the hospital right from my 8 week checkup. And that was a whole battle. Like, I mean, when I said that was a battle for a couple
That's a
months.
fine how do you do.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm done. Like they're saying, you're done, you're good.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that was like, again, like, right. When they said, well, you playing God
You
last,
go
like,
in thinking, "Yay, my last
yeah, I'm like, look,
checkup," and they're
and he's
like,
like, well,
"Get the
he's like,
ambulance here
yeah.
now," and yeah.
Was it he was like, "What's this, like, pocket right here?" I'm like, "I don't know, like a water bubble? I don't know." He's like, "That's not supposed to be there." I'm like, "I just thought it was just fluid, like, I don't know."
Oh my
He's
god.
like, "No, that's not supposed to be there." And he's like, so we laugh about it now, but the sad part is his dad passed away the month before of the sepsis, so he knew I had a family
I'm
and he knew
sure
everything I've been
yes.
through. But again, the angels, right? God showed up and gave someone that he rushed me right over there. And I was there for a week. I got out the day before Christmas. But again, I say this not to sell like some, like, oh my God, what was me story? Because that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when things are going good, count your blessings, but be blessed when things are even going not on the path that you're supposed to be on. Because I think if I didn't go through all these hardships, I would still have my head in the clouds, chasing this unrealistic idea of what a realtor's supposed to be. And I would not have been grounded and I would not have met as many people I did that humbled me and made me softer and more show myself grace. You know what I mean? So I would say you didn't have
Well,
to, you know what I mean? Like it's a
I
weird
also
concept to
think
say.
yeah, I also feel like you would not have reconnected with your own self.
True, right? So you think that that's a weird thing to say, and it's more hardships, but I'm saying those are the big ones. I feel like I was being punished. Like, what did I do? But on the other side of it, and a lot of women go through divorce, they can think about this. Even in the most amicable divorces, you see a lot of yourself lost. You know what I mean? In that amongst
Yes.
that hardship, or if you lose a parent or a spouse, it's something you can't relate to until you go through it. And I had it triple. And I just thought, okay, this is
Mhm.
something for a greater good. I'm going to help people. That's why I'm trying to finish my master's degree by October. I want to be a real estate advisor. And I feel people have a therapist for their personal life, but do you have someone for your business? I'm not talking about a coach, just someone if you really feel like you've exhausted all your friends and family, and you just want to talk it through. Well, you still have what I had is that I wanted to be so successful. It was the only thing I truly focused on next to being a good mom. And then when I came back,
Mhm.
I felt like I had imposter syndrome because people remember the Lacey before all the hardships. And that was hard for me. I'm hoping that that could be something that I could take my story and what happened to me and use it when people are going through rough times. Because as entrepreneur, you like I said, you don't turn it off. You really can't turn it off.
That's
Like
right, yeah. It's
like
hard to
even on
turn it off.
vacation, you try to, and you most time, but something really comes
Mhm.
up, someone's going to call you. So it'd be good to. I would love to take my psychology and real estate degree and merge that while still being successful in real estate, but also be an advisor that when you have life turning you upside down and you don't know who to talk to and you understand you still have a business to run, I think that's part of the journey I'll be going on as we move forward. Because you came into my life, other people have shown up that I would never have met if it was my old me.
Mhm.
I would just been, head down, just working, crunching numbers, doing everything that I thought it took. And there's more to me than just that. And I think that would be one message I want to say. There's more. We talk about our body changes every 7 years. So does your inner self.
Yeah.
And I don't think we listen to
Yes.
that. So I think that will be part of my book is that it's okay not to be number one. It's okay not to be the perfect weight. It's okay not to have it all figured out. But what do you want? And are you willing to put in the work 1% of the time to get there on your timeline? You know what I mean? On
Yes.
something you know that's attainable. Stop making these big goals like the 12-week year. I love that book. I'm even saying take it more simpler than that. What's the one thing you can achieve a day? And by the end of the year, if you do it every day, that's 365 things you can do to improve your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, you keep mentioning these little things that I know
Yep.
listeners are picking up on. So you did mention at one point. So then when I started to drop off and I wasn't number one, I wasn't being invited on panels and people weren't seeing my value and and then you mentioned briefly the panel I was on yesterday. All right, so you have your last emergency surgery in December. Because the reason I pointed up the time frame is I feel like listeners would have thought, "Oh, those surgeries must have happened 4 years ago,"
No.
because you mentioned that you were on a panel. No, you recuperated from that surgery. You got your wits about you. You showed up as your own self, reconnected and grounded, focusing on the basics and your 1% approach to each day.
Yes.
You are still giving ultimate care to your clients, and now you have this completely new relationship with your colleagues and
Yes.
your vendors and the world of selling,
Yes.
and you're invited to be on a panel yesterday.
Right? It's like
Right.
it's so again, timing is everything. But like we said, I'm not forcing it anymore. I'm not even overanalyzing, which is, if you're people that like me, I know you probably have clients who overanalyze. I'm just letting it be and I'm
Yes.
showing up for myself. And also I'm looking at the gifts that I do have that I haven't shown the world. I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
don't I never need to be number one. I need to prove to myself that I can do it. Let's clarify that. It wasn't about me being no one. I was never hyper competitive. I was my own competitor. I was my own
Yes.
worst critic.
Competing with
You know what I
yourself.
mean?
Yes.
Yes. It was never about, I literally cried with my friend Mel. She's really top, Mario Weiss. She's really top in Keller Williams. I cried when she got her awards because I knew she worked hard for it. And someone compared us and said, well, that was you. You were ahead of her. I was like, no, it wasn't me. That's not my journey. She said, why are you crying? I said, because I feel good for her. Like I
Uh-huh.
really did. And this is like within a month of I found out we were getting divorced that, what I mean? I still have that empathy and compassion and support in me that saw someone like a sister winning is something we both wanted to do. When people tell you everyone's a real estate agent, you can't do that. Or, you have to buy an expensive car. You have to do all these things to fit in. I've always been my authentic self. I
Yes.
just was better at guarding and hiding it from the world, unless you needed my help. When you needed my help, I'm full, like 100% in. I'll do whatever I can. But when it was genuinely showing you who I am, that didn't happen. And I think
Right.
everything that happened to me brought that out of me. And I now would say that if you asked me a year ago, I would have been upset. You've been like, what's this is two different people. I was upset with the world. When I was there in December, I said, God, if you get me through this, I promise I'm gonna work really hard at being the best version of myself, but also counting my blessings and stop saying, why me? And I met a lady on a trip. A friend of mine invited me on a Barcelona trip. She said if I made it through. And I met a lady with cancer and she wasn't supposed to be here. And I thought about that, and she has small children, and she said, "Stop saying I have to. Start saying I get
Yeah.
to."
I get
I
to.
don't say I
Yeah.
have to take my kids somewhere. Say I get to take my kids to practice. I get to go to work. I get to get up and make clean the house and make. Some people don't get to do that. I get to see. Look at this gorgeous blue
Right.
sky. And I started tearing up because she's right.
Yeah.
Because even amongst us, I said, "Oh, I have to go to PT. I have to go to this meeting," because I was self-loathing and felt sorry for myself.
Mhm.
And when she said that, I just
Mhm.
felt like, I'm that it was just so empowering. I get to do this. You and I get to stay here and have a conversation. I might not have had a different
Right.
path, but something happened. I get to work with people. I get to do something I love, and I don't just love real estate because I'm a real estate agent. I always love business. If you think about it, it incorporates everything:
It does.
financing, budgeting, marketing. If you're an entrepreneur, this is one of the best. And you think you can start at 18? I mean, I did, but
I
this is
know.
one of the only careers you can self-start and still be
Yeah.
self-made. And you hear the
Yes.
stories all the time. They did on their own. They were counted
All the
out. I
time.
went to this.
That's right.
And that was the one thing that got I was like, man, I love business and I do love helping people, not just as a cliche thing. I have taken on people that had no money in 3 years to buy a home, but I
Mhm.
felt needed and wanted. And
Yes.
that felt good. And so that when I say this in real estate, when people ask me about it, I said, it doesn't hurt to try, but if it becomes too much, it's okay to say it wasn't for you. I mean, it's not some get rich free. Some people are lucky and they can sell, 50 homes in a year, solo agent. That's amazing. That's a blessing. But for most of us, it takes some time and there's peaks and valleys. And some days you're going to wake up and hate the day ahead of you. And other days you're going to say, wow, I got 3 settlements this week. But all of that is part of chasing that still high. You think about it, like it is a little bit. Once you get a level of success or a little level of gratitude, it's hard not to. It's hard
Yes. For
when you
sure.
become experienced, when you know your answers, when people ask you, as a coach, when someone asks you something, you can answer it, it feels good. It feels
It
good.
does, and knowing the financial impact for your clients on all the work
Yes.
that we do, it's one of the number one indicators of financial security. It's there's
Yes.
so many benefits there. I tell people the same thing if they ask me about getting into real estate. I'm like, I do the 80-year-old sitting on the front porch in a rocking chair test. Do you want to regret
Yes.
that you tried it and it didn't work, or do you want to wonder what would have happened if you did?
Amazing.
Do it
And
if
like think
you want to give it a go.
But you're great at that. You reset the mindset and you go back to perspective. And we all do it. We all do it. And people will say, well, young versus old. No, we all do it. I've met 25
Mhm.
year olds that are more mature than most 50-year-olds I know. It's just
Yes. Yeah.
depending on your journey, right? It's
That's right.
connection. It's good. It's all these things that I'm learning now that before I was very analytical and so methodical and everything I did. Now I'm more like just take a moment and be in the moment. That's
Mhm.
the most important thing you can do.
Well, this is remarkable. You are writing your book. You are
Yes.
finishing your master's degree.
Yes.
Did you share with me you believe your book will be out the beginning of next year?
Yes, and
Okay.
I don't know if you can see this too well, but I'm designing my own boxes, marketing boxes for
Nice.
clients.
That looks great.
So
I can see
these
it.
these are
Yes.
some things that, I'm building out as far as, like I said, using my gifts to build my brand by my design. I keep using that because I loved Gary Keller's when he said that, like, by your design. Doesn't mean you
Yeah.
don't seek a mentor or help, but I think it becomes more natural and flows when it's based off of your foundational beliefs and goals. And it's not tied to
Yes.
success or money.
And when it is your personal best rather than attempting to one up somebody else by adopting approaches that are outside of not in alignment with your core
Exactly.
values or your personality or who you are.
Or copying
Right.
people or being to seeing that's the standard. I said, be
Hmm.
careful as tables do turn. A lot of people don't stay number one for long. And if that's what your leadership or office is forcing and like saying or making competitors of everyone,
Hmm.
then that's not the best place for you. And
No.
again, it's easy to get caught up in it, but sometimes it's yourself. It's your own mindset. It's not anyone doing anything. 80% of mine was me thinking I need to keep being better. I need to keep being
Hmm.
better. And we don't talk about that. We don't talk about when the lights go out, you're at home and you're looking at everything thinking, oh my goodness. When people say, oh, I lost that deal, you can't lose something you never had. You're not losing a deal. So when we have those
Right.
conversations about that, or that person took my listing, that's absurd. Like stop.
I know.
No one, it
Right.
wasn't meant
Yeah.
for you, right? So you're like, but when you have
That's right.
before we have those conversations to a low vibration or someone in a negative mindset, they truly believe that. But when you're talking to
They
people that
do.
know there's
Yes.
enough to go around,
They do.
it changes. So when you shift those 1% thought processes, habits, ideals that you have in your mind, I think that's when the true success begins internally. when you internally feel good about what you're doing, about the way you treat people, about the way you treat yourself, I think that's
Yes,
when the true
absolutely.
success starts.
Because you lead yourself first. Yeah, and you take care of yourself
Yes.
first. You put your own mask on first when they drop down in the
Yes, and
airplane,
we're
right?
not taught that,
So
right?
you are
We hear
able
those, but
to
we don't
help
do it.
others.
Yep. I agree 100%.
So anyone who's listening to us right now that may be facing a huge hurdle, either physically, emotionally, mentally, life loss, life change, whatever it might be, what is one bit of advice you would give them, an action that they could take today on their own behalf?
First, I want to say show yourself grace. You know what I mean? Like everyone can share stories. I have people say that when my uncle had his hip done and he was back playing golf in 2 weeks, that they're trying to comfort you, but it doesn't help. You know what I mean? Or
Doesn't.
God only gives his hardest trials to his, strongest angels or soldiers. We say these things to make people feel better. I think sometimes just listen. And for you yourself, show yourself grace, but no, this too shall pass. And I that's the only thing that can heal, in my opinion, is time, loving on yourself and realizing this is part of your journey. There's nothing you can do to change it. You just have to be in the moment of it and start thinking about what you're going to do once you get through it. Because if you ruminate on it or wallow in it, you're kind of putting yourself through it twice, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
whatever the worst is going to happen, you're already self-inflicting yourself with double emotions. And some things, like you said, are out of your control. And I think as humans, we got to understand that a lot of things are out of our control. So that would be my biggest thing. Acknowledge it, cry, get angry, but also show yourself grace. Some days you're gonna have great days, other days you're gonna feel like you don't even want to step out of your bed. And it's okay. But I promise you, it will get better. One day at a time, 1 minute, 1 hour.
Mhm.
You're gonna look back. We all have done it and say, wow, I don't know how I got through that, but I am doing better. And that's the one thing I tell you. Please keep telling yourself that. And I always say, God, give me the strength multiple times a day.
Mhm.
So I think if you're not religious, that's okay, but I want you to think about your inner strength that you can pull from yourself and know that there are
That's
people
right.
that
Yeah,
care.
whatever that would be for you that would
Yes,
give you that strength to do
yes.
that.
But for me, it's
Well,
yes,
Lacey,
praying.
I agree with you, and having that graciousness, one of the ways that I think people can do it, when you find yourself being harsh or self-critical, stop yourself and say, if this was my best friend, would I be saying these
Wolf.
things out loud to them? If this was my child, is this how I would talk to them? And then stop yourself and reframe, regroup, and talk to yourself again. So I'm so glad that you mentioned be
Love that.
gracious, graceful, show yourself grace. That is critical. So you are currently selling luxury real estate and
Yes.
real estate overall
Yes.
in the
Yes.
Doylestown
Yeah.
area, New Hope, Doylestown, New
Yes.
Hope.
Yeah.
You're with, I believe, the
Yes.
Keller Williams Doylestown, New Hope Market Center,
Yes. Yes, I am.
right, in Pennsylvania,
Yes.
writing a book
Yes.
and working on your master's,
Yes.
engaged to be married,
Yes. See, second
and how
chapter.
and 4 children,
Yes, for 4
and the new hips are double thumbs up at the moment?
Listen, I'm going dancing
Okay,
in a
so
month.
no walker right now.
No, no, no walker. I went on a hike 2 weeks ago, so I feel like I'm getting back to normal. It's all gonna be great.
So, Lacey, I'm thrilled that your book is coming out the beginning of next year. I'm going to have all of your contact information, by the way, in the description for this. And I would love for you to be a return guest. If you're listening to this episode of The Inner Estate, I hope you'll be a return guest as well and that you will join us for the next episode. Thank you and have a great day.